Well, hello there. I guess you weren't expecting to see me this soon, were you? Cheers. Welcome back, everybody, to me trying to record a video, which is something I have done before. And then I failed, and then I did it again, and I failed, and I failed, and I failed. And it's been 2 months, so this is not a weekly navel gazing. This is a 2 month navel gazing where I talk about where I've been, what I've done, what I read, why I didn't do anything more, and where we are going from here. And then I'll see you all on Saturday for our monthly Marxist malcontent, even though even that one is a bit late. Anyway, I hope to see you all on Saturday for the live stream. And until then, let's talk about what happened, shall we? Well, I mean, in case you haven't seen the community posts, what happened was this. My camera broke. Well, that was in December. I used to record on a GoPro, which is obviously not the best camera to record video when you're sitting at home, but it's one of the few cameras that is fairly accessible if you're blind because it has a good like phone app, and I can use that one, which is exactly what I did. So that was that, and then it broke. Hardware failure, so it's not exactly easy to repair. So I recorded on my phone, which is doable. Also not perfect, but we do what we can around here. And then my phone camera broke because, of course, it did. And it may be a software mistake, it may be a hardware error. I haven't been able to find out yet because turns out iPhones are not exactly the most accessible software and the most, easily repaired products. So I didn't know how to record. I tried to record through OBS and my webcam, which also didn't work because it turns out my computer is too slow and I would have to buy a new SSD drive in order to make it maybe record because all my gear's shit and old and I'm broke. So I didn't know what to do. And then I realized I could actually record a Zoom meeting with myself, which is what I'm doing right now. And I hope it works. If not, we're fucked. Anyway, so this is the basics of why I haven't been actually posting. I did a live stream in March. I did a collab thing with, well, I did two collab things, one with Britain over on some Okie Dude on his State of Science Fiction, and I had a book think conversation with the Fantasy Thinker. And I hope you've watched them both because they were fun. And I've shown up on Matt's Marathon Books Sunday pub a couple of times, but also not that often. So no, this is another attempt to actually make an actual video. I have been, however, not fully idle, and this is sort of like where things are sort of weird because on the one hand, I am full of energy. I wanted to record more videos because I have thoughts about so many things. And on the other hand, I've been traveling a lot. I finally got new medication for my ADHD, and I don't know if it works against ADHD, but I'm certainly a lot more energized than I've been of late. Well, of late, meaning the last couple of years. And I went traveling. I went to a bunch of heavy metal concerts. I went to a bunch of heavy metal festivals, one in Greece, one in Bavaria, others around here. And I went to a conference in Belgrade and then also visited some friends in Sofia in Bulgaria. So I've been around quite a bit. Um, which also, reduced reading time. But so I've done a lot of stuff, and I was getting worried that I could not or would not be able to actually return to doing booktube stuff just by simply just being all over the place all the time. But well, here I am, hopefully. So that's what happened. Um, yeah, let's talk about all the things I've read, and then let's figure out where we are going from here. See, I've read a lot of books. Maybe not as many as usual, what with all the traveling. But I certainly did read a couple of books, both fiction and nonfiction, and that's certainly stuff I want to talk about. The problem is, of course, that some of that has been, in March. And turns out, if I want to talk about something I read in March, I will have to reread it now to refresh my memory because my memory is not the best out there, right? So what did I read? I read Foucault's Pendulum by Umberto Eco finally, and it was, well, obviously the best thing I've read in a long time, except for Terra Ignota by Ada Palmer, which I finished, which is also very much a book or a series of books that felt like it was personally written for me. And yeah, I really, really love it. And both need talking about. I also read Some Desperate Glory by Emily Tesh, which is a book that came out last year and certainly has gathered a lot of praise. Rightly so, I would argue. So I read that. I did also read a lot of nonfiction stuff. I read, or reread in this case, Bullshit Jobs Theory by David Graeber. I read um, Cannibal Capitalism by Nancy Fraser, which is probably the most accessible book if you want to find out what contemporary Marxist or Marx related not thinkers are doing when they're trying to sort of raise public awareness. It's a really, really good book talking about, all the problems we have in the world and why maybe capitalism is sort of to blame for it. And then I obviously read not David Graeber's, David Harvey's 17 Contradictions and the End of Capitalism, which is a much drier book and does a very capital-focused analysis of the 2007-2008 financial crisis and how certain ways in which capital flows kind of led to that, and we need to sort of like figure out where to go from there. I read that, and then I read Terry Eagleton's Why Marx Was Right, and it's a very good book if you want to look at a bunch of common misconceptions about Marx and Marxist theory. Yeah, so I highly recommended that one. And then, of course, I went and read a couple of more literary criticism or literary analysis texts by Terry Eagleton as well on tragedy, and one on humor, and one on radical sacrifice. And right now, I'm halfway through rereading A Secular Age by by Charles Taylor, which I put on my Goodreads currently reading list last year, and I figured it's time to actually get through the whole thing. It's a massive tome. It's like almost 900 pages. It's like very much philosophy and history of philosophy, and thus maybe not the most accessible book, but it does have some interesting things that I might need or use in the future. Who knows? So that's stuff that I read. There probably was more, and I've already forgotten it. So I'm gonna have to go back through the list of stuff that I read in that time because I don't know where I was when all of this happened. There is obviously stuff that I plan to read in the coming days, weeks, and months. And next up will be on Tuesday, I'm Afraid You've Got Dragons by Peter S. Beagle, which I've been waiting for a long time, because in case you watched my "Hey, these are books that I plan to read this year" video, you may remember that I mentioned it. Yeah, it comes out on the 14th, and I'm very excited about it. I also plan to finally read Cahokia Jazz by Francis Spufford, which came out last year, and has been on my list of stuff I want to read for a while now, because people compare it to The Yiddish Policeman's Union by Michael Chabon, which I personally really, really, really like. So that's going to happen relatively soon, I assume. And I have Exordia by Seth Dickinson lying around here as well, which I also want to read. In addition, I will have to do a reread of the Illuminatus trilogy by Robert Shea and Robert Wilson for my offline book club. And that might actually work well with, Foucault's Pendulum, because those two tread similar grounds in some regards. So there might be something in there. Beyond that, of course, I promise to read all kinds of Brandon Sanderson Cosmere stuff. And looking at the fact that it's already May, I should probably get cracking on that one, should I? So that's also going to happen, in addition to obviously more theory stuff that sort of creeps in no matter what I do for all kinds of weird reasons. So that will hopefully also happen over the, coming days and weeks and so forth. So that's all the reading. So what are we doing with the channel? Well, as I said, there's a bunch of stuff I wanted to do. I really wanted to do. Obviously, I mean, reading a lot and suddenly having way more thoughts than I had before, or at least more coherent thoughts, hopefully with the ADHD medication. Probably, yeah, I want to talk about that stuff. Promise, as I said, I need to reread some of these. The first one up that will definitely happen very, very soon is, of course, a video on Snuff by Terry Pratchett, the 39th Discworld novel, which we talked about in our ongoing Discworld read-along, like with the friends that are still part of the read-along back in March, and then I couldn't because the camera was dead. And that means I'll have to reread Snuff again. It's a good book. If you haven't read it yet, go read it. It's really good. It's very angry though. It's kind of my book. So that is definitely the first thing I'm going to try to record. Then there is a video on In Ascension by Martin McInnes, which I recorded the first version of in February, I think, and decided it needed re-recording, and then all of this happened. So there we go. It's obviously didn't happen yet, so I'll have to reread In Ascension as well. There is more of that kind of stuff, right? The Saint of Bright Doors is one that I should probably talk about. I really want to talk about. Now that it's also got like a Hugo nomination, or is it a Nebula, one of those? So yeah, might be worth talking about it because not that many people have done so yet on the booktubes, I think. So that one will probably happen very soon. As I said, Illuminatus and Foucault's Pendulum, maybe drag in some terrible Dan Brown to talk about the idea of how we present secret societies and conspiracy theories in fiction. And I could probably drag in Richard Hofstadter's The Paranoid Style in American Politics into that and talk a bit about, truth and irony and accessibility and that kind of stuff. That would be a bit of a longer video, which is definitely where I want to go more in the future. Obviously, I want to talk about the books that I've just read, or if I like them, but I feel that more closer to video essay or whatever you want to go format kind of videos, more analysis, more thematic videos are probably where I am stronger. And at this point, everyone who, wants, less focused kind of analysis videos has gone to more charming, more good looking, or I don't know, whatever, less political booktubers anyway. And those of you who are still sticking with me probably would be disappointed if I don't also talk about politics, right? Which is, good that I just read like a lot of like theory again, because, someone has to. So I think that's sort of something that will happen in the near future, being more thematic about these kind of stuff. So a bit more meta-analysis again. I did that one thing, which was, the last video that I posted because I filmed it right before I went to Greece, right before my camera broke, on the whole idea of being political or being not so subtle or whatever you want to call it in fiction. And I feel there's more to be said about all these topics. So that's certainly something that I feel I will be returning to with some, regularity. The other part is, of course, that with those new ADHD medications and me being a bit on a high in that regard at the moment, like full of energy, almost nervous energy from time to time, I think it might be a good idea to make sure that I don't overshoot the goal, because there is that danger, especially with new medications. I know you feel like you can absolutely rule the world and everything. And it's easy to overshoot the mark, especially if videos are sort of reacting to other booktubers. And I'm always willing to change my mind, but I don't want to say things that I regret like in 2 days later. That's sort of my problem there. So with the more explicit reaction to other booktubers or whatever stuff, I'll try to be careful. I'll probably ask other people to double check if it's fine, which is something, I've done before. So this will certainly happen. But more meta-analysis is definitely something that will come back here, because it's stuff that I feel strongly about, and it's something I want to do more because I feel booktube can do so much more and we're not doing it, which brings me obviously to the other part, and that is once again, the video quality and all of that stuff. As I said, I'm currently recording this as a Zoom meeting with my webcam, and that means that on the one hand, I'm obviously limited to places where I can put my webcam. And of course that the say the resolution and stuff on the webcam are not exactly, the best. It's not a bad webcam, but it's a webcam. And while, for me sitting at my desk and drinking beer, you don't need 4K and 60 frames per second, but I want to do more, right? I want to go back outdoors and record on my balcony, record in other places. Do more with the format, because otherwise we can just do podcasts if it's just voices, right? And talking heads are necessarily that wonderful to look at all the times, so that's something that I want to do again. But of course, as I said, right now I don't have a camera, and those come with a lot of money, and Money I don't have is my point. I tried to get a new one through like a payment plan, but I am so broke that I did not get approved for a payment plan. So it's that dire still. And I think that's like another part of all of this, right? I'm trying to be more active again and trying to get more focused. I am still very much recovering from a lot of stuff that happened over the last 2, 3 years, which, was obviously, the result of years and years before of not taking care of my health, of not taking care of my mental health, of, running into that full-on breakdown, and getting out of that is insanely difficult, right? You forget to put it in like one form, and suddenly the city wants like 6,000 euros from you, which obviously I don't have. And so yeah, I'm still very much in debt, and repaying debt on my current budget is going to take a long time, which, yeah, what you're gonna do. But it also means that I can't necessarily save up enough cash on the side to buy a new camera for outdoors filming, which maybe near the end of the year and whatnot, maybe I'll be able to do that, and then we'll get some wonderful snow and winter shots in case the climate change doesn't actually prevent us from having any snow out here. But yeah, so that's certainly something. The other part is that with summer coming up, it looks like I'll be at a lot of heavy metal festivals because, see, it's something I have to do sort of if I want to stay active in the heavy metals, in the underground scene. I need to go back to concerts. I need to go back to people. I need to rebuild bridges that I burned by just like being gone for a while and just basically ghosting the world for for over a year. And that takes a lot of energy, physical energy, of course, but also mental energy to go to places, to talk to people, to apologize to people, to do all of these things. And it's something I've been doing for the last 2, 3 months more actively, more proactively. So I'll try to schedule videos in between all of that. Obviously, having like an action cam would be fun to record a video at some metal festival. That would have been fun. Maybe next year. I don't know. But yeah, that's sort of like where I am with all of that stuff, which also, is one of the reasons why we didn't have like an actual live stream in April. It was like all the Saturdays in April I was not at home, and I want to do live streams on Saturdays because Sundays is when Matt on Books does his Sunday pub, and I would be an idiot to and obviously rude to compete with him and do it at the same time slot, because we share an audience, at least in part. His is obviously much larger than mine, but we share an audience. But I want it, like 8, 9 p.m. my time is sort of like on a weekend is sort of the best time for live streams, I think, because it allows both people from like European time zones and people from US time zones to kind of tune in. And from what I can tell, my audience is spread all over, well, over large parts of the globe, I guess, or at least both parts of Europe and America and possibly other places. Um, yeah, I know other places as well. So that means that there's very few days where I can do something and make sure that those of you who want to tune in can actually tune in. So, which is, why Saturdays always felt like the best time. Which is why we're doing this Saturday, because I don't think I'll be home the next Saturdays in May. I'll try to make sure to schedule at least one in June as well, because I like the live streams. I like hanging out with you guys. The last one went for like almost like 5 hours, which is possibly too long. Who knows? I can't promise to do this again, but we'll see what goes on Saturday. I like hanging out with you. I like talking to you directly because I think BookTube is so much about conversation, and maybe the threshold to write something is lower during a live stream when people can go in chat and just say something in chat and get a response immediately than writing a comment. It's one of the things that I'm always confused about, like not confused about, like that I look at is like when I see other booktubers, and they have much fewer view numbers or whatever, or at least subscriber numbers, and they have like 10, 15, 20 comments under the videos, and I have like 3, and I'm like, either that means like only 3 people actually watch the thing to the end, or it means that there's nothing to say about my stuff, or maybe I'm too intimidating. I don't know, which is one of those things that I constantly worry about, because comments are probably the most satisfying sort of metric when it comes to responses to a video that you make, at least to me. Likes and view numbers, sort of, I don't know, I don't care about. Like comments are more important to me because, I have opinions. I want to share them with the world. And opinions means that someone has to have like opinions about my opinions, and then we can have a conversation. I want to talk about stuff. It's not just like talk to you. I want to talk with you is my point. And I feel that is more easily done during live streams, which is why I definitely want to do more of those and go back to all of that stuff. That being said, let's hope I can actually get this video working. Let's hope, I keep the energy up and I can do the other videos. I guess my plan is to record a video on Sunday about the whole, about Snuff by Terry Pratchett. And in that case, we can start into like back to like the old rhythm on Monday with a proper weekly navel gazing. So that's sort of where I've been. I guess the question is like, what have you done? Where have you been? And the usual other stuff. Like, I feel like one thing that I've learned, and I want to share that with you, and then we go into thanks, and then I'll leave you. One thing I've learned over the last 2, 3 months, going back to a lot of festivals that I haven't been to for a while, talking to people I haven't talked to in a while, is that I have friends. Now, let me explain. Right, the point is, I felt terrible for a long time, right? For the last 2, 3 months or years, I felt terrible before, disappointing so many people, just ghosting people, fucking off, not fulfilling promises, and so forth. And I felt like the world does probably hate me. Now, obviously, if you have like mental health issues, if you have depression or something, that's a very normal way to feel, right? And the problem is that, and then like even when someone is nice to you, you start second guessing they're nice and second. There's probably something behind this. They have ulterior motives. And what I've learned in the last 2, 3 months or rediscovered is no, sometimes people are just nice to you because they like you. And I think that's something we all probably need to learn a lot more. I mean, this is booktube, this is the internet. A lot of us here do have our own like struggles. So yeah, sometimes when people are nice to you, they're probably just nice to you because they like you. And it is hard to accept that. But I think we should try to accept it more because it can make the world a better place if we sometimes accept like a compliment, accept a nice gesture as exactly that and not something that means something else. And that's something I've come to realize over the last 2, 3 months with like so many people that I thought would hate me coming back and being like, hey, great to see you. Let's do this and that and being nice to me. And I just wanted to share that with you and bring that to you. So yeah, if someone's nice to you, maybe they mean it. And I know it's easy to say that and it's very hard to do that, but like, yeah, try thinking about that. Which brings me to the last part, which is thank you. Thank you all for sticking with me. Those of you who have commented, those of you who have reached out and sent me messages, those of you who are still on my Patreon, those of you who, just watch from time to time. I really appreciate you all. I really appreciate talking to you. This channel has certainly been one major outlet for me over the last 2, 3 years. Certainly something I cherish a lot, being able to share my views, share my opinions, sometimes getting feedback, having conversations with a lot of you. I do really, really, really appreciate that a lot. So yeah, thank you for sticking with me. And I don't know, should you want to support me in any way, shape, or form, just, I don't know, message me, like, subscribe, comment under this video. And in case you, for whatever reason, feel like giving me money is a good idea, there's a Patreon down below. I will revamp the Patreon at some point, make it more, rewarding for everyone. It's definitely one of my biggest struggles to figure out a way to make it worth it for you to give me money, but also not hide like actual content behind a paywall because I don't want to keep stuff away from people who just can't afford it at the moment because it's a fucked up place. We're mostly struggling with finance, with our health, with everything, right? I don't want to keep anything from anyone. So that's certainly something I need to think about. If you have ideas about that, I don't know, tell me about it. I'd love to hear your views on that. Anyway, yeah, there's a Patreon, there's a PayPal. Just, I don't know. I'm not asking for money, but should you feel like it, then there it is. Otherwise, I'll hopefully see you all on Saturday and beyond. And until then, I'm glad to be back, and thanks and cheers.